Thank you for your love, your constant support, and every generous donation that helps this mission grow. Your presence here means more than words can express. With gratitude and light, have you ever felt that sudden ringing in your ear? A high-pitched sound, like a subtle whistle, that comes out of nowhere and disappears in a few seconds. No one around you hears it, only you. It seems small, but inside, something unsettles you. You feel there's more behind it. It doesn't seem like just any noise. The truth is that this doesn't happen for no reason. There is a deeper reason for this silent sound that only the sensitive can pick up. And if you've been feeling this frequently, it may be a sign, a calling, a kind of spiritual alert, an invisible invitation that only the chosen can hear, because they are already ready for something greater. The chosen are not better people. They are people who have begun to perceive what has always been there, hidden between the layers of routine. The ringing is often the first whisper of an awakening that has no return. When this sound appears, it's as if something in the universe says, "You are ready." Now listen, and listening is only the beginning. In this video, you will understand what this ringing in the ears really means, why it appears at specific moments, and what message it carries for those who are ready to see beyond the obvious. If this sound has already visited you, you are not alone, and it is certainly not by chance. And if this theme touched something inside you, if it made sense in a way that can't be explained, follow this channel. Not as someone who presses a button, but as someone who recognizes a meeting point. This channel is a refuge for those who hear what others do not hear. Here, you won't need to explain, because we already understand. Who are the chosen? And why do they hear what others do not hear? Many people live their lives on autopilot, disconnected from their own essence, ignoring subtle signs that the universe tries to send. But there is a group that feels differently, that perceives what most do not see. They are people who carry within themselves a special sensitivity, an intuition that speaks louder. These people are the chosen. The chosen were not born with a manual nor with superpowers. They are not better or more evolved. But they have one thing in common. They went through experiences that made them awaken. Pain, loss, sudden change. Something inside them broke, and at the same time, opened. That was when they began to perceive sounds, signs, premonitions, things that others would call coincidence. It is in this context that the ringing in the ear arises, not as a physical problem, but as an alert. A kind of internal calling that starts subtly and becomes constant. It appears when you are in silence, when you disconnect from the noise of the world. It is as if someone were trying to say something, but without words. A vibrational code. If you are hearing this ringing frequently, you need to know. This is not for nothing. You are being called. You are being invited to remember something that your soul already knows, but your mind has forgotten. The sound is the first portal. The confirmation that you are not crazy, you are awake. Many of the chosen feel that they do not belong, that they are different, that they see life with more depth. And this at times turns into loneliness. But this ringing comes to show that you were never alone. It is a reminder that there are others like you, scattered out there, living the same journey of spiritual awakening. This calling is not about religion. It is about consciousness. About opening yourself to frequencies that go beyond what the eyes can see. The chosen not only feel more, they also hear more. And the ringing is one of these forms. A bridge between the invisible and the internal. A sound that only the prepared can pick up. This sound appears at specific moments, sometimes after a meditation, other times during existential crises, or when you are about to make an important decision. The universe whispers before it screams. The ringing is that whisper. A vibrational psst that asks for your attention, that invites you to be silent and listen with your heart. The most curious thing, after you start paying attention to this sound, it changes. It becomes more frequent. It happens in more significant situations. It seems to gain intelligence. That is because the ringing responds to your awakening. The more you align with your mission, the more it appears, as if it were saying, you are on the path. And yes, there are days when it bothers you, because the truth bothers, because awakening hurts, but it also sets you free. The ringing may seem like a nuisance, but in fact it is a password, a vibrational code, a sign that you are accessing something that most still cannot. You are hearing what you need to hear, even without understanding everything. Therefore, before worrying or trying to eliminate this sound, breathe, observe, feel. Perhaps what you call a nuisance is exactly what you needed to reconnect with your origin. You are not alone. You are just remembering who you have always been. And this sound is the soundtrack of your awakening. The ringing in the ears may seem like something simple, even common. But for the chosen, it has another meaning. It is like an energetic signature, a password that activates forgotten memories. Not a rational memory, but a spiritual one. When this sound arises, it not only draws attention, it realigns. It puts you in touch with your deepest essence. In spirituality, it is believed that this sound can be a sign of vibrational elevation. Your body is adjusting to subtler frequencies. You begin to tune into different higher waves. And the ringing is like the sound of a radio station tuning in. It is a sign that something is changing within you, even if you do not understand it yet. Another powerful interpretation is that the ringing is a form of energetic communication. Your guides, mentors, or even your higher self may be trying to send messages. Since they do not use words, they use frequencies, and these frequencies resonate in your ears. When you feel the ringing, it is as if someone were saying, "Hey, I'm here. Listen." There is also the relation to energetic blockages. Sometimes the ringing appears when there is something out of balance, a blocked chakra, an old unresolved trauma, an emotion that needs to be felt. The sound, in this case, acts like an alarm clock. It bothers you to wake you up. It calls you inward. It makes you look at what you were avoiding. And there is more. The side of the ear also matters. Many spiritual traditions say that ringing in the right ear is a sign that positive messages are being sent from the spiritual plane. In the left ear, the sound usually indicates internal alerts, intuition, or the need for self-listening. Each side says something, and you learn to decipher it over time. There is also the concept of energetic downloads. Some moments in the life of the chosen are so important that the universe sends spiritual information packets. These downloads do not come as text, but as energy. And when they arrive, you feel it in the body. The ringing is the sign that the file is being sent. You only need to receive it in silence. The most important thing is that you stop seeing the ringing as a mistake. It is a reminder that there is something happening behind the scenes of your consciousness, that you are in transition, changing frequency, evolving, and that is not comfortable, but it is real. You are hearing what many ignore. That alone is already a sign that you are ready. This sound may be the beginning of a new phase. It may be the push you needed to seek more answers, dive into yourself, develop your intuition. The ringing is the call, but the next step is yours. You can ignore it, or you can respond. And when you choose to listen, everything starts to change around you. Therefore, do not be afraid. Do not fight against it. Give thanks. You are being activated. You are being reminded of who you really are. The sound is not a nuisance. It is a whisper from the universe saying, "We are with you." It is a gift, a reminder, an awakening. And like every awakening, it requires courage. And if you are feeling this now, know you are not crazy. You are waking up. And this video is just the beginning of what you are yet to discover. When the ringing appears, the moments when the chosen are called. The ringing in the ear never appears by chance. It arises at key moments. Most people do not even notice the pattern, but the chosen, over time, learn to notice. It appears when silence settles, when the mind stops for a second, when the soul begins to speak louder. And that sound is the answer. It can happen in the middle of the night, when everything is calm and only you and your thoughts remain. Or it can appear during a conversation, a reading, a moment of intuition. The ringing does not respect common logic. It appears when something needs to be heard, not with the physical ears, but with awakened consciousness. Moments of pain or deep transformation also attract this calling. When you lose something, someone, or even your own direction, the sound may arise, as if it were saying, "Hey, there is still something inside you that is not lost." It is as if the universe placed an audible marker to remind you. You are not alone in this crossing. Have you noticed that the ringing appears after important decisions, or when you hesitate to follow your intuition? It acts like a compass, a vibrational signal saying, "Pay attention." For the chosen, this sound is like an invisible conversation with their own soul. And every time it appears, it brings a silent invitation to reflection. Other times it arises in moments of spiritual expansion, after a deep meditation, a sincere prayer, or a true experience of gratitude. In these moments, your frequency rises, and the sound appears as a sign that you are connecting with something greater. It is the subtle plane manifesting, confirming that you are in the flow. There are also moments of alert. When you are about to act against your principles or enter an environment with heavy energy, the ringing may arise as a warning. It is your sensitivity saying, "This place is not for you," or "This choice will take you away from who you really are." It is a sign of spiritual protection. The body feels before the mind understands. The ears pick up frequencies that the eyes do not see. And that is why the ringing becomes so sacred to the chosen, because it has no immediate rational explanation, but it has a deep meaning. When you begin to honor this sound, it begins to guide you, and more. When you ignore the ringing, it goes away. But the feeling of disconnection grows, because it is like an invisible thread between you and your spiritual origin. The more you listen, the stronger this thread becomes. Ignoring it is cutting that contact. Listening is coming home, even if the journey is only just beginning. You may even try to silence the sound, but it returns. Because it is more than a sound. It is a reminder that you are awake in a sleeping world, that you hear what many do not hear. And this gift, as subtle as it may seem, is part of what makes you one of the chosen. Therefore, the next time this ringing arises, stop, breathe, close your eyes, feel what is being shown, even if you cannot translate it into words, because understanding comes later. First, you need to accept that you are being called, and believe, when you respond, the journey changes completely. The ringing does not speak in sentences, but it communicates. Its language is vibrational. Therefore, understanding what it says requires silence, sensitivity, and presence. For the chosen, the ringing is not noise, it is a code that needs to be felt, not deciphered with logic. And each time it appears, it brings a new message. One of the simplest ways to interpret the ringing is to observe the exact moment it arises. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? Who were you talking to? The ringing is like a spiritual marker that highlights what needs attention. It appears when something you ignore needs to be looked at more deeply. Another clue lies in the side on which the ringing appears. When it is in the right ear, it is usually linked to spiritual messages, confirmations, protection, as if the higher plane were saying, "Yes, continue." The left ear, on the other hand, brings alerts, intuitions, something that calls for caution or reevaluation. It is as if your own spirit were saying, "Look within." The chosen, over time, develop the ability to interpret these sounds as part of their journey. They stop seeing it as a nuisance and begin to record, feel, listen with the heart. The ringing transforms into guidance, not because it tells you exactly what to do, but because it reveals what needs to be felt before it can be resolved. There is also what we call energetic ringing. It does not come with a rational message, but with healing energy. It may appear in moments of cleansing, as if the sound were deprogramming old patterns. You feel discomfort, but afterward, relief. It is as if your energetic field were being adjusted, and the sound were the sound of that adjustment. Other moments bring what many call spiritual downloads. Information is transmitted directly to your field of consciousness. You do not understand it at the moment, but in the following days, you begin to have clarity, ideas, new feelings. And when you look back, you realize it all began with that ringing. It was the sign that something new had arrived. The ringing can also appear as validation. Sometimes you say something, feel something, make a choice, and the sound arises like a silent yes, as if the higher plane confirmed that you are aligned. When that happens, it is common to feel peace or even goosebumps. The whole body responds as if saying, "Continue, you got it right." In other cases, the sound appears in moments of doubt, fear, or confusion. And then it does not bring answers but presence. It is as if it were saying, "You are not alone." In these moments, more than trying to understand, you need to trust. Not everything spiritual comes to be explained. Some things come just to be felt. The great key to interpreting the ringing is to stop forcing understanding. The spiritual does not impose itself, it reveals itself. When you become silent and accept, the message appears. It may be in a dream, in a conversation, in a random thought. The sound opens the door, but you are the one who needs to cross it with consciousness and presence. Therefore, the next time this ringing arises, do not run, do not fight. Listen, feel. Ask yourself, what is trying to emerge here? The answer may not come in words, but it will come. Because when a chosen one listens with the heart, the universe responds, always. The ringing in the ear is not the end. It is the beginning. It marks the start of a new phase in the journey of the chosen. It is as if the universe were saying, "Now that you have awakened, let us walk." From this sound onward, your perception changes. You begin to see life differently. This sound becomes a milestone. From it, you feel that you need to seek more, that something inside you wants to align with something greater. And this desire is not an illusion. It is your spirit remembering that there is a path to follow. The ringing is the push that was missing for this reconnection. Many try to go back to normal after hearing this sound, but they cannot. Because the ringing carries something irreversible. It activates a spiritual memory. It shows you, even if subtly, that there is something more. And once you see it, you can no longer unsee it. It is the turning point. This is the main role of the ringing, to remind you of who you are. When you begin to listen attentively, you realize that it appears at strategic moments. In each of them, there is a message, a direction, an invitation. The ringing is like the divine breath that activates your inner compass. In the journey of the chosen, the ringing can be compared to a portal. It takes you out of autopilot, breaks the routine, and puts you in a state of presence. Even without understanding exactly why, you feel that something is being adjusted. This is the spiritual intelligence behind the sound. Another important role of the ringing is to teach you to trust. You will not always have immediate clarity about what it wants to say. But the more you observe, the more sensitive you become. And the more sensitive, the more connected you become. The sound teaches you to walk by faith, not only by logic. It also functions as a reminder. On the days when you lose yourself, the ringing may arise as a sign that you are moving away from your center. It is a call to return, a way of saying, "Come home, return to your truth." This is a gift in disguise, and when you truly listen, something inside you changes. It may seem subtle, but over time, the transformation is visible. You feel more aligned, more whole, not because you understand everything, but because you are connected. The ringing makes you remember that you are part of something greater, invisible, but profoundly real. This sound also awakens gifts: clairaudience, sharper intuition, energetic sensitivity. The ringing is like the activation of a spiritual radar. You begin to pick up more from the world around you. You feel people, environments, words. Everything gains more depth. And this, for the chosen, is a preparation. So, if this sound has been part of your life, receive it as a sign. Not as something to be eliminated, but as a key. A key that opens inner doors and reveals new paths. The ringing is more than a sound. It is a spiritual password that only the chosen can hear and understand.